interesting and very helpful in guiding us. But there's also certain aspects of religious spiritual practices that we, how to put it, that we could come across that add things that can help us and open us up to things that we really didn't consider before. So maybe what we'll do is take a moment. I, of course, at the last minute was scrambling with little ideas. So we could line up and focus. And then we will sort of begin. Right. I just need a little more, one moment to sort of line up, sort of scrambling at the last moment. It's always important to find what's called the inner posture. That place of alignment within ourselves, which with practice we learn to tap into. It's where our backs, our spine, and we learn to discover our central channel or central column is a sweet spot, not too far back, not too forward, not to the left, not to the right, too much. Just sort of wide, straight down into the chair. You find that sort of space where there's an openness. And you could feel that space go up the spine, and it's clear and it's spacious. As one clears and does stretches and yoga and mantras, you are able to feel it, and even see it, but sometimes, especially at the beginning, and even when you have the practice, you feel calm and peace. If you could put your awareness there, place your attention at that place at the bottom and feel it go up, and you can rest there, and the mind softens and aligns, and one can become very present in that feeling. Oof, feel calmer. So, have a little something interesting for you all today. One moment, please. Okay, I don't want my voice to be too raspy today. So, in the past, I've discussed prayer beads. And I had mentioned that one day I would discuss crystals and how they can help us. And I thought, as we were working with mantras, this is where prayer beads come in. And they're called different things by different traditions. Why are they used? Several reasons. Some traditions, you have to do so many, over 100,000, 1,000,000. It sometimes can be a lot, could take years. So they're used to count. Other traditions, you don't count, and they're not used as much. Some traditions say it's not the number, it's how you say it while being present and mindful and able to connect to the energy of the syllables or the name that you're using. I practiced under both schools. I found recently, as I was doing this practice with you all, because I like to do the practice that I'm currently teaching, so I can be in that space and provide guidance. So as I was doing more of a mantra recitation, saying it repeatedly for periods of time, as opposed to 3 or 4 times and then resting in that energy, which is also a practice as well. So you can go from one to the other, saying a couple times, have it line you up, find that calm, and then you're present, or you're reciting the name repeatedly at whatever speed you feel called to. And we'll go into that. I think I've spoken about it in the past, over a year ago, but we're going to kind of go back into that a little bit. I found myself grabbing a new set of prayer beads that I created for myself about a year ago. It has 72 beads for the 72 names of God. Why did I grab for it? Using prayer beads when you recite the names of God helps ground you. You could say the names, and it's harder in a way to have traction because of the number and also the energy that's generated, whether you're aware of it or not. If you hold prayer beads and you move them in your hands, and mind you, you're not counting. I do not advocate numbers. Please do not count the number. I never understood that concept when I was in the school that did it. And then I met a teacher who didn't understand it either. And that's a whole other type of school that's harder to find, but I found it's more powerful and it was more hidden. It's all about being focused in the prayer. And you move the beads because the act of moving it grounds your body. And you're anchored in your recitation of the divine name. When one meditates or prays, it's helpful to have an object of awareness, right? So when we have our prayer space, we look at it, a flame, pictures, right? Objects. So we're anchored by sight. A prayer practice I did at the beginning, we were anchored by our senses, hearing, smell. If our eyes were open, eyes, right? Felt sense of the air against our bodies, and we open into the space to everything we hear and touch and feel, and we rest there. We don't think about what it is. If it's a bird, we don't say it's a bird. We just hear the chirping. It's all input. And our awareness, our minds rest in that. Yes? That anchors us. It gives us a being which calms our mind. We're not anchoring into space. We are internally, but we have an object, what is called of meditation. And the object is the sounds, feelings, smells, and what we see. When we recite the names, we can have our eyes open at our prayer space. So as we recite it, or the Aleph, or whatever picture you have on in front of you. So our sight anchors us. The sounds of the name anchor us. But when we recite multiple names, having prayer beads really anchors us. Maybe it's for me, out of the habit of counting in the past, and even when I didn't count, I had found it helpful. So maybe I'm habituated to that, and people who are beginning might not need them or feel called to them. But I wanted to explain it and give it as an option to everyone, as well as to get into something I really normally would not talk about, but I found in my life to be helpful. The use of gems and crystals, which is a real thing. Take my word for it if you haven't come across it or you think it's out there. Boy, I really launched into it this morning, didn't I? Just went right off into the meditation. So, and a deeper explanation. I should really shift the gears up slowly. I went from being scattered to right off the deep end. Apologies for that. Oof. So I wanted to put it a little bit into context because I don't teach things that are just out there. And I remember in the 80s when I was growing up, I heard people speaking about crystals in the 1990s. And granted, back then, the 1970s were only 10, 15, 20 years before. And I used to think, woof, boy, they're out there. Like, this is crazy stuff. Like, what in the world? I just was not buying it at all. Then lo and behold, I started with the practices I was doing in the yoga and other things, my body started becoming more sensitive when the density of the things that occur in all our lives that have occurred, it's just a human condition. You know, we go through life and things happen. There's a density in us, and we're not taught in the Western world, in the modern world, how to relate with that, to that. So our batteries fill up. We're not taught how to feel into our body. And I'm going to give more practices coming up soon on how we can open that up for us in different ways to touch in with that beautiful antenna that's within us, to clear off the rust and the dirt and all the things that have come around us and around that antenna that is our body, our bones, our nerves, that have sort of deadened us. Deadened, how to put it, made us numb, unable to feel. So as opposed to getting an input of 100%, where was I at probably when I began? I didn't feel much of anything. I couldn't feel my individual toes. If I try to put my intention on my knee, I don't know if I could quite feel it. You know, and I think that's kind of, if you think about it and you look at your feet, can you feel each individual toe? I really couldn't. And each individual finger. It's interesting. Why can't we? There's a lack of an ability to, it's just that we really haven't activated the felt sense of our body. So there's a whole realm of possibilities of engaging when we start clearing and move into our birthright of being a whole, complete, fully integrated, whole. What's the word? What's the word? Aligned. It's our alignment. When we're aligned, aspects of ourselves that were dormant become apparent, become seen, become available, become activated. And life and ourselves starts becoming pretty wondrous. Like, wow, oh my God. We're living in a space that we're able to touch into aspects of our reality that we didn't think was possible, things that we thought was crazy or out there or off. And we realize, no, there is that aspect. And what do we do with it? I'm very curious. I explore and I look at it, and I've learned a lot from it. It's how do you bring aspects that we come across, such as prayer beads or mantras, right? This also kind of falls into things that most people do not have an understanding, frequencies of words, connecting with divine names, and then feeling that, seeing the change that occurs. So it is with stones, gems, minerals. because they have a frequency. How do we use that skillfully? Because throughout human history, we've often reached for tangible objects, beads, amulets. And it's not that the object has power in itself, but it has a frequency, and it could help us focus, align, heal. It can hold spiritual power through the divine name or prayer we put into it, so it radiates a certain oomph. And when we're out of calibration, when we're off, because our bodies are, you wake up, you feel off. Bringing this in helps us heal, to get back into alignment. It's a skillful means. An alignment with what? Well, aligned sifrotes, aligned emotions, aligned thoughts, alignment with God, or alignment with the universe, depending how one wishes to see it. So they could be used as a tool that helps us attain different levels of awareness. Meditation aligns us with our intention, kavanah, with the divine. They're also reminders of our practice, anchor our practice. And as I said before, helps us remain centered as we move through our mantras and that energy, so we can stay in stability and recite 15, 20, more like 100, 200, 300. So just like a leaf, root, or herb has medicinal or energetic properties due to their physical and chemical nature, so do stones and crystals. They have natural qualities that's unique in their composition and their structure. Energy goes through them. They radiate an energy. They're empowered through where they come from the earth, and they're also energized by placing them in the sun for some of them, some in the moon. And when they're energized, once you have a degree of sensitivity, which one learns to develop, you feel it when you hold them. You feel them when one is in the room. And they're all a little different. And they can have a healing effect because we're off sometimes. Or it protects the space from energies that are out of alignment that can affect us, denser energies. And it could have a soothing effect, like chamomile tea, or a frankincense, or one of the incense that we can use. So I mentioned a lot about energy. Energy is very real. This is not 1970s by a long shot here. This is old stuff. We've just merely forgotten it in the modern world. And when one begins to understand this, we start becoming empowered. Because as opposed to having it affect us, and it does, even if we don't feel it, at a subconscious and physical level, it does affect us. We've all walked into rooms feeling good, and within 2-3 minutes, because of the people in there, we start feeling depressed or yucky or off or angry. Once I walked into a space, this is after a retreat, and they were having a massive argument. It was intense. The teacher, I don't know what happened, was not having it. I've never seen him so upset, so intense, and so laying down the law. I have no idea what happened. Everybody was listening. It was intensity level 20 out of a scale of 10. I walk in, boom. I picked up an energy, and I literally 2 hours later went off on someone, and I have no idea why. I picked it up. Wasn't mine. Didn't feel that way, and it was completely out of my personality by a long shot. So it's real. And we begin to relate to these facts in our world. Mantra is energy, prayer is energy, sacred music is energy, sacred images is energy, visual energy. It's all inputs. We have a sensitive body made out of bones, calcium, that moves energy. Our heart is an electrical machine. It generates the electricity for our whole body, right? So EKG, right? We now have physical proof that it's true, right? The EKG, little beeps on the heart on the screen. Well, what does it measure? Energy. The EKG for the mind, all those like 15, 20, 30, I don't know how many little lines on the screen, right? To measure how alive somebody's brain is. Well, that's energy impulses of the brain. But the main source of it is the heart, because the mind itself, I don't believe, generates any energy itself. But it's how the mind uses the heart energy. I haven't gone too much into this. I wish I had done that teaching like I felt to in October. Then it would be somewhere there, but I've touched upon it. If you go into more Eastern, which is the level beneath the Sephirotes, and you deal with the energetic aspect, the freeway of energy in our body, so more physical and beneath, yes, you have the different chakras. And you have a radiance outside of our body of this energetic field that is generated by our hearts. People call it the aura. Levels of energy, 5 or 6 different levels going out from the body. Yes, it's a real thing. Just because people use these words and they're new agey doesn't mean there's an underlying level beneath. I don't know what they talk about. Some of it is way out there. Like, oh my God, where did they get this stuff? Doesn't mean it's not real. Because there is a whole school of thought and teachings that's thousands of years old dealing with this. So there could be a modern manifestation that's whacked out. No judges, but I listened to some of it and I'm like, whoa, a lot of these people are not studied. Where they learn it from is all over the place. But if you go down to the traditional teachings and you start working on yourself, then through your practice, you realize this is real through personal experience. And this is what I share is my personal experience, because as what you can tell, my mind is a little conservative. I did not buy into any of this stuff, but I've come across it in my own experience. And then I've researched it to make sure I'm not off. And then as one learns to increase the sensitivity, increases one's awareness, you become empowered because you become aware and you are able to engage in deeper ways. You go in nature, and there's a beautiful stream and the birds. You can open to that, and you have a whole different experience. Just a couple minutes of being in those sounds could be the equivalent of someone else being 5 hours out there. It quickly removes the densities. You find that inner space. You're open to the sounds. And it's literally a breath of fresh air on multiple levels. It clears out the densities in our bodies, lines up, if you want to stay in that school of thought, the chakras, and clears our aura because we've allowed to open and to release. And these aligned frequencies and clean that exist in nature sort of release any density. And with that core body, as we've been learning, being reset, then the sephirotes don't have the disturbances to throw them out of alignment. Because if we look at our minds, it becomes calm. Things that disturbed us no longer do. We find solutions. We find different ways of acting. You go from being out there and you're all angry, you leave, you engage with the situation in a completely different way. Why? Because that energy of anger, the hot, the heat, the intensity, right? Or of sadness, or that heavy energy isn't there. And then what opens? A clear space of seeing. Doesn't mean necessarily you let go what happened, because that's just sometimes avoiding. And sometimes it's skillful not to say anything, but then sometimes you need to change your posture or engage in a different way, but you do it with your sephirotes, with your mind, with your energies more aligned. So it's in a wise, skillful way. Wise, skillful, balanced ways is the way of Adonai. You see how all this links in? Everything that's intelligent, wise, aligned, balanced, compassionate are the energies of God. So when we bring in skillful things that helps align ourselves, remove disturbances or densities, we align to our higher selves, to higher frequencies. And we learn to ground them in our bodies. We transform ourselves from the densities and the heaviness and the inability to feel our bodies to something different. The spiritual path is not just with the head. We have to bring our entire being into it. And a new way of thinking, perceiving, engaging with ourselves and our world begins to manifest, begins to become available to us. Everything that is aligned, that is centered, is of God. Well, I don't want to use absolute terms, but if you're centered and aligned, how can it be out of balance? It's proper. It's kosher. Isn't that of God? You see clearly, you connect internally with your wisdom and with the heart of God, the mind of God, the actions of God. And this is why we do all the practice we do, is to transform ourselves. This is a metamorphosis, the path of change. This world changes us. Innocent little baby, and then everything that happens. Right? I don't think very few people can say they're in the same space they were when they popped out. These practices is to undo everything that's occurred so we can go back to that openness and purity of a baby. And before that, to the source, that alignment that transcends ourselves, time, and space. God, His names, the Aleph, if you're just spiritual, the universe, in its purity and alignment. So when we engage with things which I'm going to speak about, they're used. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. One moment, please. Okay, that's better. We use them to help us. They're not sources of power. They're sources of medicine. And we learn to find different ones that help to regain that balance. Our body is an energy field. Crystals and minerals, incense, just like medicines, help realign disturbances, help clear densities. From an energetic perspective, the more sensitive and open an ability to feel one becomes, the more we're able to experience what they do. Because one literally feels it. And you feel the change, and when you hold them, you feel what they do to you. You see whether you like it, whether it's dirty or clean, depending on what's held in that, how things shift. Some don't feel good. That same one could feel good for someone else, different bodies or different periods in your life. Some feel, oh, this is what I need. Others like, oh, yeah, but not for right now. This is an ability to bring in a different element that is very real. I am ahead of my notes as always. So they're a tool to help us realign to the divine flow. Because a lot of what I teach is working with the body as well. Because we're connecting to a frequency and a way of balance here on this planet to align ourselves. We're not just fighting with our minds and our emotions straight on. All of that is on top of field of energy, like I've spoken before. Aggravated energy, aggravated emotions, aggravated actions. Calm energy, calm mind, skillful, balanced actions that are proper to the situation. Doesn't mean we're passive. Doesn't mean we don't say what we need to do or go to a certain place or arrive at a certain place or leave a certain place, depending on the situation, we are able to engage. But it's proper to go or proper to leave or proper to say or proper to not say. And it's done in a way that is optimal. That's what happens when we're able to rest and be clear. And that is on a bed of clear energy. And with practice, as one evolves and is more in the Ferrari out of my little, car thingy that I'm discussing, or more in the Learjet or spaceship. Well, no, that's different. Let's just stick with the Ferrari. Even if the world and everything is disturbed, and you are as well, angry, whatever, we're all there, angry emotions, agitated thoughts, if you've learned to sit in that space in the past, you could still be focused in the storm, even if your energies are out of balance, because you've learned to tap into something that is able to be centered in the storm. That breath of fresh air that you can tap into, that sort of causes all of it to just settle. So God's created a planet where these things exist, and it can help us. Also wood and trees. All of these things can help. We need a certain thing, we go to the ocean to clear. We need something else, we can go to the woods to clear. We need something else, we can go to a mountain. We can go to a place where there's granite. Or we can go to a desert, like Joshua Tree. Or Arches National Park with all that red stone. Let me tell you, you get a different experience from each one. They're different. You go to certain ones when you're out of balance in a certain thing. Salt oceans, very cleansing. Pacific. Atlantic, not as salty. Has a different property. Going to mountains, fine. Going to Yosemite where there's granite, you will get cleared. 3 days. It was intense. It was hard. Oh God. Didn't think about it, but boy, that energy, and it just cleared all sorts of things, the dreams. But then after the third day, something just, and I cleared it, and I was like, oh, thank God. It was intense, but then I was in calm and peace because things that were around in me released. Joshua Tree, similar effects, can be intense and then a clarity. It's a high altitude desert. Out into the red rocks of Arizona, Utah, very healing. Not so much clearing, but just an infusion of a very, very healing deeply into the bone energy from those red rocks. It's different. And it becomes skillful. And we're using tools and things that exist in our world created by God to assist us. Medicine. And as one may not have the ability yet to fully sense, you could ask yourself, how do I feel here? Do I feel better? Do I come back rested? And then as one deepens and becomes more sensitive, one feels it almost immediately. Oh my God, it's doing this. Oh my God, the pain. Oh, and then you start understanding. Sensitivity is not bad. It's good. And you learn to shield yourself when you go out in the world, and you know how to handle more intense situations. It doesn't mean you get battered by everything just because you feel more. You are able to handle it in a different way. It's just that your range of what you see expands, and you're able to better navigate, and you feel it's like being in a car full of dust and grime and dirt. You can't see, the car's weighted down. You really can't feel if little rocks or petals hit your car because there's just so much gunk all around it. But then if you clear the windshield, you go into the car wash. Well, now little dirts and pebbles or even bigger ones hit the car. You hear it. You're able to see the storm or the road around you clearly so you can avoid it. You start feeling the little bumps or even heavy bumps on the road because your car has had its suspension cleared and aligned. Do you see? We empower ourselves. We go into situations before we would think all being great. Well, being more cleared, you realize this situation's really off and this ain't good, and you leave. And that was the right choice. But before, you wouldn't know because you're not sensitive to pick up the signs. And you don't understand why some people are leaving. And you think they're off. Well, maybe, and you don't realize you're the one who's off. So we need to calibrate, reset back to factory settings. And the factory settings is our Sephiroth's aligned, our chakras aligned, and we're aligned with God. When we were created in the womb, we came through aligned with God. Then everything else happened. So we are retouching in with our reset. We are hitting the reset button. And we are learning how to do it skillfully and carefully, using things that help and been tried through the ages. And bringing into our lives, if we so choose. This is just merely an option. And I present it in a way that makes sense. I think now it makes sense to people who haven't encountered teachings like this or understood them, because they didn't. They just see it from the outside, from the people who are a little off and present off, and maybe they're not off, but just the way it's all presented just doesn't make sense, and we're like, whoa, what's that? So, I'm ahead of my notes. So, the real work we do is always inside of ourselves. Right? We tikkun ourselves. We heal ourselves. The mantras, the prayer beads, any crystals help us to heal. To help us work internally to enter into that alignment. It's not a placement of reliance, and that's the path. It's not the path. It's a means to help us on our path. Mantra is a means to help us. Prayer is a means to help us. Studying Torah is a means to help us. Walking in nature with that intent to align is a means to help us. The ocean, the desert, the mountain, granite, red rock means to help us. Yes? It's not the whole path. It's something we could bring into it. Right? It's an addition. We don't get lost in it. It doesn't become the whole. It can be allies to our mindfulness. Just move something I saw towards the end of my notes. So, in the Jewish tradition, the high priest of old, before the high priests ended with the fall of the Second Temple around 800 AD, had a breastplate of 12 precious stones, which are described in the Torah. It's thought by some that it wasn't just decorative. It, of course, represented the 12 tribes of Israel, but it also could be seen as a means to align to receive divine guidance. Because all the stones have a unique spiritual signature and energy, a specific frequency, radiance, and energetic quality that made it suitable for sacred use by the high priest. Of course, they were beautiful and brilliant, which was a blessing to the person, as well as the people who saw him. And some are known for healing and protective qualities. For an example, some aren't exactly sure which ones: ruby, carnelian, topaz, emerald, turquoise or garnet, sapphire, diamond or onyx, opal, agate, amethyst, topaz, jasper, aquamarine, obsidian. There's more than 13 there. More than 12 there. But, from the list I saw, I wasn't exactly sure which one was which. But you get an idea. And each of these have a frequency. For example, one moment, please. So for an example, amethyst can be seen as a stone of clarity and spiritual protection, as well as wisdom. Spiritual alertness. It's a quartz that has a mineral that turns it purple, and it emanates a different frequency than just quartz by itself. And one begins to feel it, and one is able to sort of, how to put it, here. It puts out the vibration of what that frequency out into the person's body and radiates into the aura. It's not just the person's body level of alignment or disalignment. it now has a signature of the amethyst that goes out into the body and has an effect on the body, the mind, and the aura. The aura could have clear colors, different colors that can change. It could also be muddied. So as opposed to a bright red or blue, you could have a very murky red or murky blue if the person is unhealthy or out of alignment or angry. It changes the colors. Quartz absorb energy. It could also emanate energy. A turquoise can absorb imbalances into itself and therefore removing it from the body, but it also puts out the energy of what turquoise is. In this image kind of shows what that is. Especially if the stone is charged under the moon, turquoise loses its color in the sun. So turquoise was highly sought after in the 1800s. And I think this is before diamonds. I think it was the ring that was given for marriage, turquoise. I think it was expensive back then. So I don't know if people have inherited rings from great grandmothers, but suddenly there's a white stone. Well, it could have been a turquoise that got bleached out with time. So you or use it sort of for those means. It helps align. Here is wood. Has certain properties as well. And you see, it helps with our alignment. And we learn to discover which one works for us specifically due to our body type. So there's a whole range that may work or not work, as well as what we might need for that period of time in our lives. And then we move on to another one, or we stop completely. It's something we can use. Yes? So when we recite mantras, we can do a twofer. And I love twofers and threefers. The twofer is, it helps ground us, but then it's also made of a material that also brings us benefit along with the name of God. Oh, it's a threefer. Love threefers. You see? And now we're stacking it. And then we have our shrine, fourfer. And then we have our incense, a fifther. And then the sixth, we have the light. And then if we have quiet around us, now we're at the seventh. We have a proper posture. Now we're at the eighter. Oh my, I'm loving this. Do you see how we're stacking an environment that is one of healing and of balance? Then if we have sacred music at the end, that's a ninether. And then we skillfully leave that space when we're done. Extinguish the candle in a proper way. Say it may be a normal prayer at the end if we've just been doing mantras. And then we quietly leave to pull that energy in us and keep it. Live from that place for the rest of our day. And yes, it's possible. Carry it over into the next day. Yes, that's possible. Then we do our practice and then we start charging, and it infuses into our body like incense. Our bodies become the battery that goes into our body, isn't the ook. It becomes the fragrance of our practice, the energy of our practice, our energy of our prayers, of our alignment with God, and it becomes filled up with what? God, alignment, the proper energies that we should be full of. which heal us, heal our world, heal our minds, heal our actions, heal our siphirots. Because then we have it in us. And then it's available to us as we walk through our days. And that's in our aura, in our body. And we realize things don't affect us as much. We go into a room of anger. Well, we have this shield from our battery that's just radiating out that center of peace that we've also learned to cultivate in our minds, in our emotions, in our energy, so we're not easily disturbed. We've attained a level of stability. The ship, the boat may rock left and right. Everybody's seasick, everybody green, everybody, pardon my French, throwing up off the side of the boat. We've all been in these situations. We've all felt seasickness or car sickness. Not pretty. But we're on the boat and we're like, no problem. We're not feeling ill at all. Actually, we can grab the wheel because the pilot is sick. And we're able to skillfully see where to direct the boat to get us past that in the easiest way possible. Because we have this reservoir we've cultivated of calm, our alignment with God, and we have our batteries charged with things that are helpful. And we realize our battery isn't full with that, is our battery is whole and proper with what should have been in it to begin with. And it doesn't allow things that shouldn't be in it because our aura becomes a shield. So as we become more sensitive, it's not that we are open to everything, which is sometimes when you don't feel well, you are more open and more sensitive to environments. So you have to engage in a different way because, you're no longer in this truck that takes all the bumps. You're now in a Ferrari, but you learn how to manage the Ferrari in a different way. And then you can be in the car, in the truck as well, when you've more in the Lear jet. It's smooth sailing, regardless of the situation. It cuts through clearly and is not rocked. It's no turbulence. It's a level of attainment. And these things help us to get there. Yes? Doesn't sound New Agey anymore, does it? Sometimes New Agey is linked to Old Agey. I practice Old Agey, ancient Agey, and learn how to bring it here to help us today as modern people. So these beautiful traditions made by priests and yogis and learned people and passed from master to student didn't end back there. Because it's a heritage to us to help us today when we really, really, really need it. So let's engage in how to go about looking at this. Perfect. So I think we all have a good basis, correct? This is a good spot to, how about a 10-minute break? I haven't spoken all that. Yeah, I've spoken for a good amount of time. So let's do a 10-minute break, and then we're going to go and discuss certain of the main crystals and some of the wood as well. So this universe, which some people may not have ever considered, kind of opens and people can engage with it if they choose or not. But if people choose to do a mala, prayer beads, the beads have to be made of something, wood or stones. And so this will help people get an idea of what to look at and what to consider, and find something that speaks to them. Okay, 10 minutes, my friends. Okay. So let's go into something interesting. So we're navigating something here that's not fully of my tradition. There are people who use the entire path in crystals. And in the books you can consult or online, which hard to find good sources online, but there's one or two which I don't know, they change all the time. Some of the stuff is off, or at least some of it's off, and some of it I just have no idea about, and it's just not necessary. Not helpful. It's a little out there, and maybe because I'm just limited that way. But you take it and you try to get a sense of what it is, and some of it could be interesting. Some of it you don't understand yet and come to understand, and some of it is just not really there. So it's based a little bit more on the chakra system because it works directly with energy. And I haven't discussed it too much, but there's elements of a book which I'm going to share, which I found to be extremely helpful and whole parts of it to be very accurate. And then there's sections that I'm just like, I have no idea. This is really like, anyway, just sort of out there. But we learn to skillfully engage to get an understanding about things that we really have no understanding about. When I started engaging, I went into a shop, very nice people, crystals were very clear, highly knowledgeable, clean people. And I would hold them and she would guide me through them. What a blessing. I learned so much. And for years I would go and she would help me and she saw my interest. And I already had a degree of sensitivity, which is why I became interested in it. And I would hold them and I would feel it. And then I would go to the book and then I would see how it lined up with what was in the book. And often it lined up. So, hold on. This is the book. 1 second. For some reason, it is not in my little viewer. That's interesting. Well, I will find it later for you guys. The picture of it. There's old versions of the book, and I want to make sure, newer versions. And I really want to make sure you get the older version because the newer version is, I looked at it once and it is not the same by a long shot. One moment. And it's just, I don't know. I found it to be off. It just changed. And maybe it's the way I looked at it at the time, but there were just things that just did not jive at all. So this is the version, if you're interested, that I recommend. And this is the version I'll be speaking from. I call it the one moment. That's interesting. Now it's, here it is. It's really has everything about crystals. So this one is the 1998 version, and that's the cover. Okay? Please don't get it confused with the later one. Here is a picture of a page in the book, and I thought I would walk you through some of the major ones to help guide people who are interested in stones for their malas, prayer beads, to help guide you in understanding on how to engage this book. There are over 200 stones in this book. The pictures are amazing. Often they use the best quality of the stone, which of course you'll never see in the stores. But it just shows the beauty. And then if there's ever a stone you're curious about for jewelry, or you feel drawn to some stone, you can look it up in the book and get a deeper understanding of it. So why don't we work through a few of these? And then, it's interesting. If you're not into it, it's fine. But it's interesting. It exposes you to something that's not normally engaged, and, gives an HP Shalom on something a little different. And I find fascinating. So clear quartz is sort of the basic ground of this. And it's the stone that has less of anything in it. It's open. Citrine, amethyst, all sorts of other quartz. They have a frequency based on the other mineral that's in there, or minerals, which causes the color. So the quartz is the basis, and then you have the amethyst, which is a form of quartz, and citrine, that's a form of quartz, and all sorts of other types of quartz. So it's able to absorb energy. So it's able to heal you. It'll take energy from your body that's off, and it will actually change color, believe it or not. And it'll become dull. And if it's too saturated, it will take on that energy, and you can pick up that energy. If you're healed and then you pick it up, it will sort of come into you. So it's important to clean these stones under running water or incense. I like cold water, and I pray over them with a mantra, and it clears them in a minute or two through my fingers. And then you charge them because they need energy to amplify. Quartz, I like using the moon for the most part, and quartz could also be sun. But you learn to see which one you like. The sun's really intense nowadays, so maybe it's best to stick with the moon. But the sun in the early morning or something, or you could put quartz in the red rock by trees in the forest. It absorbs energy. And if you find a place of energy that is healing to you, you can bring it home with you, and you could bury the quartz in the sand or whatever, and it will absorb the energy. And if you keep the prayer beads in a small bag, right? This bags you could put these things in, it won't dissipate out into the room. So quartz is amazing. So you say the name of God, the frequency that you're generating by the name of God will go into the quartz. It's a property. It absorbs energy. It's real. Yes, believe me, it works. So at the beginning of this, it describes the properties. I find these things to be accurate. You just come to learn. Storm is a very engaged, active energy that clears. And the chakras, it's open, so it's all the chakras. I haven't gotten to that. Chakras are real, just take my word for it. So it works on all. It's a very open stone. People often have prayer beads of quartz. So here it describes a little bit about what it is, properties, what it looks like, boom, 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 right? Very interesting, all these things. Yeah, so it's used in radio devices, microphones, transmitters, watches, right? So these things have properties that we use them for in this day and age. And here we go. This is when it gets interesting. Make sure we're on the same page because I have to look at it on a different screen. Okay. So why don't I go through it a little bit with you, and then I'll just give you my little commentary so we can use them in a skillful way. Always be careful when you look in a different tradition that you use your mind and you don't take it all, whatever, 100%. You take what works. So what we're trying to do here is have an understanding on how our quartz could help us heal our body and line us up, right? How does it help us on our journey as religious or spiritual people? So that's the intent with which we engage. We're to heal ourselves, to help heal our world. So it's a means. Okay? So let's read along. So Japanese, I highly respect their tradition. So I have confidence in what the Japanese would think about it. So I learn infinite space, purity, perseverance, and patience. Indigenous cultures, North America. Highly respect North American tradition of the Native Americans through my knowledge and understanding. So because I have that knowledge and understanding, I have a certain level of credibility. Burma is a Buddhist tradition. They tend to understand crystals quite well. So that opens my mind to like, okay, this is a source that I could have some confidence in, right? Living entities. Yeah, well, it has, from their perspective, see, this is where you have to be careful. I understand their tradition, so I know what they mean by this. But yeah, so food and ritual offerings. See, no. See, this is where you have to be careful. But what they're getting to is, see, this is when it starts turning into something that's not religious oriented. And so that's why you have to be kind of careful when you read this. You realize this brings in all sorts of different traditions. It's trying to give you an explanation as to what quartz is used for from different cultures, some of which their insights help us and others don't. What it's getting towards is living entities in the aspect is that there's frequencies that it engages with you. So it might feel like it's alive because it emanates a frequency, but trees emanate a frequency. Do you see what I mean? So you have to be careful because these are indigenous religions. That means they tend to view divinity in objects that are material, which is not our tradition. Okay? So this is why I'm going through this, so people come to understand what we're using it for and to help us, right? So the whole part on the top is what it is. It's interesting from an interesting point of view of what they do, but that is not what we're interested in. Next person, Richard Simmons. I like what he says. There's other people who comment, and some of them are kind of off. It's a little bit everywhere. What he says tends to make sense. So let's go into the energetic aspects, which is what we're interested in. How does this stone affect and help us? Yes? So it amplifies energy. We could program it, right? Put a mantra in it. It absorbs the energy of the space we're around. Right? We could program it with the best part of ourselves that gets programmed with the energy it pulls up that aren't good of ourselves, of the red rocks. That energy So, and it retains it in its crystalline structure, which has memory. Clear quartz is known for its ability to absorb and retain. Yes? So you focus your intention, right? A goal. Yeah, so I don't use it for that, but people do use it for that. It's really could put in your intent, and it could be a thought or a goal. That's how expansive you could use it. What do we use it for? You see? These things could be used for many things. What do we choose to use it for? Yeah. Yeah, see, intention of desired outcome. There's different aspects. So what we do when we read this is come to an understanding of the properties of the rock. Right? And not get caught up in all these other aspects. You could see, yeah, it's possible, and people do use it for that. Interesting, we increase our understanding, but in our alignment, in our prayer, in our faith, is that something we use that for? Right? So it's a skillful engagement in the use. And since we don't have the knowledge, especially if you can't feel it yet, we go onto sources to help us understand a little bit, to make sure it works with what we would like to use it for. Does it have the qualities that help us? But it's hit or miss. So you read and you get a sense based on what's written to see if it's workable. Because they have the knowledge. If you want it for X and they're speaking about A and it's only about A, you'll get a sense by reading about A whether it's even would work for X, because this book's not off. It's accurate as to the properties, which is why I suggest it. It's a thick book, by the way. So I'm just going to skim down, but I think you got a sense on how to engage. Intention amplification. So it does bring spiritual awareness because it clears you off. It has a strong vibration if it's charged, and that intensity will cause things that are not of the same vibration to leave you. So it clears. The anger clears. Things that trouble you clear. But it could also make it at times a little more intense as it leaves. It bumps against it. So it could heighten that sense of feeling about a certain issue and allows you to see it and to process and to clear it. Because it has a higher vibrational frequency. So the realm of spirit to be transmitted and translated into the world of physical form. So basically it's another language of what I just said. Right? It says about sleeping with it could increase the vividness of dreams. It could deepen one's experience of meditation. So now do you kind of see aspects which help us? Yeah. It could amplify the energy of other stones, so you learn how to work with other stones with it. Energy grids to heal, that's a whole other thing. Healing, consciousness expansion, chakra opening, another form of healing. Yeah, so guides, past lives. So these are things, whatever it is, I don't engage in that. But it gives you an understanding as to indiscriminate amplifier of whatever energies surround or into it. So we see it. It can collect an unusual large amount of psychic debris, things that are off with you. And therefore, it's important to clear it or to cleanse the crystal. And it could be done in several ways. So you see here? So this is the aspect that guides you. You don't want to be fumbling in the dark on something when there is a tradition that will help guide you. But these books are hit or miss. But you take the assistance, right? So you could soak the crystal overnight in salt water tradition. Solution, I like Himalayan salts. On dry salts for a few days, never done that. You could bury the crystal in the ground. That will clear it. Place it in the sun. Sage smoke. Under running water is my favorite way. I put under cold water for a while rubbing it, and then place it under the moon. And it keeps it clear, and it charges it. So I hope that's one of the basic ones. Let's see what this next person says. So the first person is in all the little write-ups, and I tend to stick with him. And this is sort of a little additional, but, I find this to be a little more miss than hit. Embodies the concept of clarity and the value of becoming a vessel for the light of the divine. The second one tends to be more mystical. So let me go back to the top. I'm actually liking what she's saying on this one, actually. Some of the other ones I'm not as much of a fan. Excellent ally for healing and in prayer work. Because of its storm element energy, it's most active on the nervous system and connective tissues of the body. That I agree with. It can be, you could feel it. The first stones you'll probably feel will be of the quartz family because they're quite intense. But then there's also volcanic stones, there's meteorites. They tend to be intense as well, and they have their properties, and they're listed in this book. So it embodies the clarity, it cleans you to help align you to the light of the divine. Strong and clear connection, they say higher guidance. I would say to the upper sephirots of wisdom and understanding and to God, Keter. So you can translate these things, right? So it's, there's different traditions to high communications of higher beings. Well, how about communications to the divine? So you really kind of have to work with it. You kind of have to take it or leave it, but now you got a sense of what quartz does, right? And ultimately, that's what you're looking for. So here's the last part, and they have a whole sense of different quartz elements. One of my favorites is rainbow quartz. It has, and sometimes I have a big piece of it, quite large, weighs maybe 3 or 4 pounds, and it clears a room, and it's not as sharp as regular quartz, and it has a very healing energy that clears in a gentle way and makes the room very open and cleansed and spacious, which helps when you go through something. It's an assistant. It becomes like an energetic medicine to help. We don't have a lot of things that can help us in this world. And a thing like a rainbow quartz or something in a room, or a Himalayan salt crystal, one of those big salt crystals with a little light in it, that actually takes a lot of things out of the room and out of our bodies, which helps clean and align us, helps heal the nervous system, helps heal the pain or the anger or disturbances in our minds. And that's the purpose of this. And I found it very, very helpful, especially at the very, very beginning of my, when I was clearing a lot. The one that I love the most is turquoise. My first set of prayer beads was turquoise. And for people dealing with a lot of emotional and physical pain, turquoise is very, 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 very healing. It's not of the quartz family, but it works on the whole body. It's active, but in a more base, mild way, but very whole healing. And I had problems expressing myself, and it's particularly strong on the throat chakra, which deals with expression and manifesting. It's considered to be extremely sacred to Native Americans, as we see their jewelry is all made of it. And so it gives a little bit of history about it and where you can find it. Like I mentioned, there is a lot of discussions here. The color here is horrible. I don't know why they used this picture. Turquoise should not really be green. This picture isn't necessarily green. You find it a lot of green in the stores. I really don't understand that color. It doesn't feel right. It should be more on the bluish spectrum. You won't find a real blue one. If you do, buy it. It's hard to find nowadays. It's the way they used to be. But you also don't want to find green. It could be a little green on the spectrum, but there's some that's all green, and I would stay away from those. So it discusses a little bit of what it is about. So it's not only a stone for wholeness and truth under Robert Simmons, it's aid of communication, manifesting of those qualities. So it harmonizes. And what it does, it really heals and warms out your energy from disturbances and brings things into balance. So it deals a lot about speaking. You know, I don't know if it helped me with that. What I do know is it really helped calm my mind. It's a stone of wholeness. It is also beneficial to overall well-being and soundness of one's mood and emotions. Look, there he writes it. So my own experience often lines up with what he's saying. It is a balancing and induces a sense of serenity and peace. I absolutely agree. Holding or wearing turquoise can help restore depleted vitality and lift sagging spirits. Amen. That has been my experience. The stone has the capacity to heal the emotional body, relieve stress, and bring focal point of awareness to its proper center in the heart. Absolutely. There's a reason why I put turquoise to share with you. Teaches that the wisdom of compassion and forgiveness of others offers one the opportunity to experience the insight and the enlightened selfishness, that means the lack of being selfish, is identical with kindness and generosity. So it goes a little metaphysical. It's emotional intelligence, because it calms us down so we can think and understand emotions in a better way. You know, he says his little input on this, you know, and you take it, you leave it. But what do you get the sense as to what the properties of the stone are? That's what I turn to this book for. Online, there's all sorts of crazy things. There might be one or two websites that are good, but after you base some understanding on this book, then you can go online and you could see whether it fits in or not. So I wanted to go through this to give you a means on how to engage skillfully, and also realize it's not of our tradition, but it helps us understand to a certain extent what it is and what we're drawn to, and whether it helps us if we choose to use this in conjunction with our path. So Naisha mentions about integrating ourselves. All parts of self are aspects of the divine source. Yeah, the purified parts, not the unpurified parts. So, you take it for what it is, it is a stone of self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, and the release of regrets or everything that disturbs you. Right? A lot of people put their own spiritual thing on this. So, that's what it is. A lot of, what I'm sharing now is the skill on when you go into other traditions on how to sort of engage with that in a way that doesn't kind of throw us off. All right, next one, citrine. This is another one I've used. So it's the 3 lower chakras. It's also a quartz, but it has the solar aspect, the sun. So it's manifesting, it's warmer, it more engages with the body. And I found it less sharp than clear quartz. So we'll just quickly go through this. Clarity, thoughts, enhanced creativity, magnified powers of will and manifestation. That is 3rd chakra. So it really gives you strength. If you feel depleted, normal quartz, citrine might be more for you. So solar, sun, manifestation, energy, strength. So here they mention it helps with thinking and knowledge. Yes, it could activate the 3rd eye, wisdom, because the quartz itself amplifies, but with the solar, it could have an effect on the 3rd eye for clarity, because quartz clears the muck. And what do you get when the muck is clear? You get clear thinking. And if it's ultimately clear, it's transcendent thinking based with divine wisdom. And so these stones itself do not have these properties. It's merely what do the frequencies that it emanates, what effect does it have in our body that creates that result, right? That's an important point. It just clears. It really cleans in a deep way sexual things that are out of alignment. It really helps with that. So there's that. Here's this. One moment. Let me be right back in a second here. So when we have a prayer bead, if we choose to make one, we could investigate what do we want to make it of? What properties can help us as we use it to stabilize our prayers? Does that make sense? So we're creating a twofer. We're centering, but also since we're holding it, it's in our body, physically holding it. So it affects our physical body, and it's also within the sphere of our aura. So that itself will influence us. Even if it's sitting nearby, it influences. The aura goes out anywhere between 5. Well, if you're ill, it's close to you, 4 feet. But anywhere between 5 and 8 feet ahead of you. So it's, and maybe even, it's, well, the more you do your work, you could literally feel things energetically across the room. So we won't even get into that. But this is a sort of skillful means to help, huh? So the vibration, that means the frequency of it, creative energy or will, right? So there's natural citrine. I would suggest always buy it natural and untreated. Anything that looks fluorescent, bright green, bright red. Now there's some stones that are naturally bright green, and this is why you look at the book. But anything that's been heated, chemically treated, do not touch. Needs to be natural of the planet. And I wouldn't get one that has any product on top. It could be smoothed, but you don't want somebody to add a layer of something that keeps you from touching the actual stone. That will dilute the stone and put in the frequency of what's ever on top, like heated, treated citrine. Look, I have no idea. I didn't take the picture. It looked burnt out. Well, maybe that's why it looks burnt out, because it is burnt out. Or maybe it helps, but I would just keep it to what God created. Amethyst. Beautiful. The picture they gave, not so pretty, but it looked better in the book before I scanned it. Its third eye. Amethyst is known for wisdom. Crown, top of the head. Etheric, that means above the crown. So this is a high vibrational crystal that works with thinking and connection, not so much with the lower chakras. So whatever elements in it that turns it to purple really creates a frequency that helps with those elements in our body, right? So all crystals, to a certain extent, that are quartz work with protection and purification. But this one has more of a divine connection. So it works with the upper chakras. And of course, it's gorgeous. Neolithic people used it. Ancient Egypt used it. It's believed to have been the ninth stone in the breastplate of the high priest of Israel, and is the one of the 10 stones upon which the names of the tribes of Israel were engraved. You see? So it's interesting. You learn. You come to understand how these things were seen in the past, and we learn something about our history. Right? Let's see. Let's go on a little further. So, Robert Simmons here. What does he have to say? Because I like this guy. Stone of spiritual protection and purification. Curbing overindulgence and giving up bad habits. Yeah, because if you stimulate the upper reasoning part of the body, bad habits are not in alignment with higher frequencies. So if you clear that, out go the bad habits as a consequence, right? Helps with cutting smoking, drinking, or drug use. I don't know if it does or not. So it stimulates the crown chakra and is an aid to meditation. I would agree. That's why we go to stones. They help our meditation. Do they help us connect with the mantra? Do they help us clear and find that center within ourselves? These are aids to help, just like finding the right incense or finding the right color of the container in which we have our light, which we light in front of our prayer space. It all affects us, and it affects different people in different ways for the same thing, because we are not all the same. So are you picking the right thing that's in alignment with you to create the best possible outcome? Yes? Clear of negative influences and attachment. Yes, because it's a high frequency stone. So it kind of moves out and clears whatever is not of a clear frequency. And does have an energetic shield, because it strengthens our body and our aura, and it's active. So it kind of pushes away anything that's more dense. That's just the physics of the thing. Yeah, so ward off negativity in one's environment. Amethyst absorbs less than quartz. Quartz absorbs a lot, the white clear quartz. When you get into the colors, they are not as receptive because they have a certain frequency. Yes, so they complement and add a certain element. So when you're doing the mantras of God, it clears a lot, but there will also be an amethyst element too that could assist in certain ways by directing that energy that is being charged by the mantra. So you have both, and the mantra itself charges the amethyst. And it might focus the mantra to more in the upper mind, or heal certain things in a certain way that could be helpful. Yeah? Yeah, so apparently it helps a bubble of light of protection. I didn't encounter these particular properties of amethyst. I haven't worked that much with amethyst, though I did once make an amethyst prayer bead, but I did not use it too much. So I can't speak to a lot of this, but I think everybody's getting an idea here. So I don't want to go into this too long, but I wanted to touch a little bit about the main ones. They show how you can pair it with different things. They pair with certain ones quite well, and it sort of mentions some maybe, some not. I don't know. Yeah. Amethyst is a classic meditation tool. Its energy allows one to easily enter into meditative state and to maintain conscious awareness while communing with the divine. Vibration of amethyst stimulates the higher mind and facilitates brain function because of its ability to stimulate the third eye, crown, and etheric stature. Well, she's doing a really good job here this time. Well, maybe I more agreed now, 10 years later, than I used to with her. I don't know. But right now, this is really helpful. It's a natural choice for psychic opening and intuitive work because it opens up to higher levels. And like I say, the wisdom mind, the mind beyond our mind, our consciousness, that's kind of what she's pointing towards here. So it's an aid. It's a barrier against lower energies, which is helpful if you're into difficult situations, or you're doing a deep healing and you need to go to the grocery store and you find that this helps shield you. Well, it's kind of smart because you don't want to, it's intense maybe in that store and you don't want to have to clear that for the next day or two. So you put this on, which allows you to maintain your energetic space so you can protect what you're trying to heal. And that's intelligence, my friends. Right? Wearing a piece of jewelry with the name of God on it empowers that jewelry. We spoke about this maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago, which creates that divine blessing where you go to help heal and help protect, and as a remembrance of our alignment. So these stones can be used for that. And for a while, I did have certain things around my neck of stones, which did help me. And I lived in New York City, and, people who visited, you kind of realize you need all the help you can get, especially if you're trying to heal in such a space. And so it's skillful. It's a tool, right? You're in winter, you wear the winter coat. This is something one can consider as well, but it's an add-on, right? So light or cocoon, well, normal quartz can do that as well, and amethyst, and I would say all crystals do that. Some more than others, but they all do. Moonstone, I love a lot. Little more higher energy. I didn't list it here. Maybe I should have. It's an amazing one. Maybe during the break, I'll quickly pull out the sheet on that one. I have a ring of moonstone. You see, they're put in rings. If you put a ring on the right hand, so the body system moves in a certain area. Energy comes in from the left hand and leaves to the right. Left foot out the right. Right hand, if you put a ring on your left hand, the left hand goes right to the heart. It goes into the body, goes into the heart. So for me, given my sensitivity, I could only wear gold on the left hand. I can't wear silver, and really no stones. I'm limited just because of the way my body is. On the right, I could wear all sorts of things because it doesn't go directly into the body. It attaches in my body. So it is in my body, but it doesn't go in. It radiates out. So it radiates out into your aura, which in turn goes in your whole body. Yes, it's real. Trust me. And so it's a cohesive whole effect. For me, it's much more powerful because of my sensitivity. What goes out into your body also goes into your body, because to the central channel and up, it goes into the aura, and it also feeds back into you as well. So everything that's outside is also entering inside. Yes. So any stone you wear as a ring on the right affects you. But as it affects the energy around you, it also protects and shields or changes the energy from the outside of you that comes in. You see? This is real. Believe me. I used to think this was whacked out. I've experienced it. I read it. I've studied it. It's a thing. And it's so when you choose a pretty stone on your hand, ask them what it is. Look it up if you know a trusted website. Pull out your book of stones and read on it. Have an understanding on how it's going to affect you. It is not just a pretty stone. It has properties. If you're sensitive, understand whether the ring should be silver, copper. I find it very healing. I never really used to look at copper. Sadly, I should have. Copper, gold, white gold. They all have different properties. It's in this book. You should look at it. Some people could handle certain ones. Some people can't handle certain ones. You put on certain things, you can get ill. I don't handle silver very well. It makes me sick. It's too intense for my body. White gold and gold. For other people, I have a good friend who needs to wear silver. Silver. His body's oriented to silver because his imbalance is on heat, intensity, thickness. So for him, silver is clearing. I have the opposite. I need the warmth, embodiment, and the richness of gold. And same with the properties of these crystals. we don't realize, but what we wear as ornaments, necklaces, rings, have a real effect on us. And as we do our work, we come to understand that. And we come to add it and work with it in a way that's skillful, that assists us. Diamonds have an effect on us. Look up diamonds. They amplify. If you tend to be angry, I don't know, I don't wear diamonds, but look into it. It could make it worse. You need to understand, what are you wearing? What's your state of mind? And how will it affect it? Make it worse? At the worst, it should be neutral. No effect. Best option, that's the worst situation, it has no effect. The best situation, which we should aim for, right? So the worst it could possibly be, because we're mindful, is it's neutral. Not that it makes us worse. We got to be careful. Or does it help us? Does that make sense? So it has an ability to higher mind, allows us to gain clearer comprehension and understanding of the dynamics and root causes of life experiences. So what causes things were occurring? The understanding of that is called wisdom. And wisdom is from the 9th chakra and above. The 9th connects directly to the crown that connects above. So we could say, in a way, that this is understanding and knowledge, the upper sephirots. So I'm not connecting this too much to the sephirots, but you see the wisdom, we're going up the central channel, and it's a central column or central channel. It's aligning things up between the different sephirots due to its energy, right? Because it has that form of medicine. And it allows us to connect this particular one, amethyst, to the aspects of wisdom and understanding. You see? Right? Brain function, blissful energy, emotional based decision making, eliminates that. Wow, I really like her write-up. This is really excellent. Maybe I spoke, it's been a while since I read the book, and maybe she's not in all of them, but maybe she is, and I just have a bad, but anyway. So meditation, communion, communications. So it's not one's guides and angels. I think maybe that's why I didn't like her as much. So you translate it, communicating with divine wisdom, right? So just translate it to what she's trying to say in that modality to what works for us. Oh, here we go. Insist one's in surrendering to the divine and assuming one's spiritual power as a creation of that divine being. Wow, I think that's literally what I've been trying to say for the last 2 hours. I'm becoming a low-key fan of hers. To assist one in surrendering to, well, here, let's just... I'm going to clear my voice with a little drink, and then I'm going to say this clearly because I really think this is the point I've been trying to make for the last 2 hours. So, working with prayer beads and everything we do that I try to teach, working with what material we put into our prayer beads, what crystals, what names of God, what we put on our shrine, what meditation we choose, whether we choose to read sacred passages of the Torah, what mitzvot we decide to apply skillful actions, everything in our lives, right? Does it assist? We do it, hopefully, to assist in our surrendering our ego, things that we personally want, but not in alignment really of what we should do, our desire to do X when we feel that our divine guidance path is to do Y, right? Things that are not pure, that are off, right? So we release those urges that throw us off, right? So ego is aspects of us that are not quite in alignment. It assists one in surrendering to the divine will, the divine flow, divine guidance, surrendering to the Merkava chariot, the energy of the Shekhinah, to be in the flow of the river of the Shekhinah, swimming in it, where you surrender to the flow and it moves through you. You dance in the flow of the Shekhinah in alignment with Adonai, with Hashem, with Yahweh, with Elohim, with Emmanuel, with Abba. And we assume one's spiritual power, one's birthright, one's alignment, and the beautiful blessings that come from that, the sensitivity and understanding, the ability to manifest in strength as a creation of God. We learn more and more and ever deeper, closer ways on how to become full, in alignment, complete, whole sons and daughters of Adonai. Amen to that. Okay. So, amethyst here opens and clears the third eye. Wisdom and clarity to the divine will. Crown chakras, they're linked. They're basically twins. Which in turn accelerates the development of intuitive and psychic abilities. Yeah, you are connecting to something beyond your physical mind, to the consciousness that allows us to have more intuitive and knowledge that's beyond what we think we can access, but they're very real things. Perfect. I think I sense we're having aha moments here. So I think here we are. So this is the last one. Sadly, the picture did not come out all perfect. So you notice there's pictures here of different ones, and it's a beautiful exploration. When I look at a ring and I feel called to this, I like it. I go home and I pull out the book and I have a good read, and I learned something because I don't have this knowledge, and now I've gained it. Tiger's eye, beautiful stone. I'm personally not drawn to it. It's a little too rich for me. It's very earthy, gorgeous, high energy stone. Not high, but I feel it. People love to have this as prayer stones, prayer mantras, prayer beads. For some, it's beautiful. So very much strengthening and vitality. It's fire and earth, the elements. Elements are real. I've discussed it a little bit. It's the properties of what they are. Solar plexus, manifesting into the world. Solar is the ability, plexus, the ability to manifest, to do things. Sexual, creative, and root. I haven't discussed those. I'll get into that. So here's a little bit on tiger's eye. I don't want to go too much into this. I've spent a lot of time on stones. But to just give you a sense, there's just so many here. Just so many. Let me find my sheet here. Vitality, practicality, physical action. The root is desire to live, to manifest, vitality of a fundamental ability to manifest in your life, which is similar to solar plexus, but root chakra is more existential. Response to physical life, remaining grounded, calm, and centered. Maybe I should work on that stone. I'm just not drawn to it. Stone of mental clarity, intellect, sharpening, imperatives of will, the need to persevere through extended time, hard effort, and entangling difficulties. Wearing, you could wear it around your neck, even if it's your prayer stones, or carrying tiger's eye, ring, or wrapping your prayer beads around your hand, like 2-3 loops, so it just sits on the wrist and doesn't fall off, can overcome fatigue or discouragement. Activates and aligns the lower chakras to draw upon the full spectrum of primal strength, creativity, and enlightened intention. So, how do we manifest in our world? In a distorted, off way? Or do we manifest with an intention, a desire to manifest in a wholesome, clear way, in alignment with Yahweh, which we can call enlightened? Yes? So we can be in contact with higher states of consciousness that's aligned in pure awareness. Beautiful. Maybe this is a stone I should have worn. I'm not drawn to the color. There's other stones I could use for this if I choose to. But also we have to remember the names of God contain all these qualities. So we're not overly reliant here, because the names of God brings us all these qualities that are in these stones. So let's not forget that. We practice mantra if you choose to. A lot of when I was doing this is before I encountered those methods. But when you do, and I didn't so much use stones that are too amped, I used more turquoise. But if we do the names of God, it fixes all of this. It's just an additional add-on if you have a prayer bead, what you make it of. But let's not forget, the mantra does everything. So I want that to be clear. So I think that's it. There's more. You're welcome to get the book if you like it. I have no affiliation with these people. But, you know, it's helpful. So we're going to take a quick break here, and maybe like 7 minutes. I want to pull up the moonstone because that's a little slightly different. And let me just, and I have to take a little break. So let's do, how about 7 minutes? Okay. All right. Okay. So to go through a few more, like black tourmaline, protection, grounding, shielding. It's the root chakra. Very powerful, very cleansing. It's doesn't absorb. It actually has a very intense frequency. It more expels. Rose quartz, love, healing, gentleness. It's the heart, softening, self-love, connection of spirit. Rose quartz I've never been able to resonate with for whatever. Something about the stone doesn't work for me. Lapis lazuli, divine wisdom. It's a very powerful wisdom priest stone for clarity, insight, wisdom, third eye. It's certain clairvoyance and judgment. They all have different properties. The sunstone, joy, divine will, very solar, vitality, radiance, prayerful energy. So they all have different qualities. And it's something to explore if you choose. The spiritual path can be a lot of application and learning. But, you also can come across things that make it a little more special, a little more zesty, that adds a certain element, that adds beauty in its form. We're going to quickly go into woods. So across the world, there's been certain woods that have been chosen for prayer beads because of the feeling of energy that comes from wood, its fragrance, and sometimes its spiritual symbolism coming from certain trees assigned that had certain seminal events that occurred with them. So a sandalwood is a one to consider if you feel so chosen. It clears the mind, invokes peace, deepens devotion. It's gentle, calming. Cedar, it's protection, purifying. Olive wood, peaceful, soft, has a holy vibe, highly tied to the land of Israel. A lot of olive. Peaceful prayers. Rosewood, soft, very Shekhinah oriented, emotional healing work. Tusi wood, devotion, protection, sacred. There's also the Bodhi seed from another tradition, just from different traditions, for awakening, compassion, devotion. You pick one, a stone or a seed, based of whether you're drawn to it. So you go online and you look at images of the different ones that are available. You could look at malas that have already been created, and you cut the string and you make it 72 beads for the name of God. Because we bring all these practices back to God. This is 72 names of God in traditional and Kabbalistic Judaism. And so there's 72 Hebrew names of God, which was what we use. So it's a sacred number. And you look online and you find what calls to you, what color, And it's very important to have that connection because that assists us in our prayer. It's a vibration. Does it help us make us feel whole? Does it help us heal us? Does it add to our path? So we look at the color. We have to be very careful of getting fakes. So you look online and you see what they should look like. There's different quality, grades of metal, of stones, and you try to get the highest grade and the purest one that you're able to afford, because they'll have more of that energy in a stronger way and a more beautiful color, which is a blessing. Being surrounded by beauty is a blessing. By something that you value is a blessing. And that helps lift us and make us feel better. It increases our vibration. So it works in many different ways. You buy more than 72 because some of them will be broken. Some of them will have discoloration in them by how they were made in the mineral kingdom. Some of them will have maybe different colors that are a little off. So you get more because as you're going to use this in a spiritual way, it shows respect to God because you're bringing along your path. And if you say the names of God on them, it gets subdued with that vibration. So you want them to look as good as possible. Also, in a chain of them, if you don't buy them already made and then cut them down, you could buy whole rows of them. Like they'll say, 32 for a certain price or 50 for a certain price. You buy them and they'll have different sizes in them. So you try to get a consistent size that works for you. For a man about 6 foot, you need 9 millimeter rounded beads. Impossible to find nowadays. They used to be everywhere. You can't find them. Try to find them. It's the perfect size for a man with normal hands. If you're a man with thicker hands, it might be more 10 millimeter, and you are blessed, easy to find. Women tend to be more at 7 and 8 millimeter. 8 millimeter you will find, no problem. 7, just like 9, is an odd number. I think it'll be harder to find. So you go to a store and you try to find one, even if it doesn't have the one you're looking for, to get a sense as to the size that works for you. I have to go down to 8 millimeter, which is a tad too small. But sometimes online, I go and I email the person directly and I explain my problem. And I ask them to send me a set that's closer to 9. And when I choose them, I pull out the bigger ones. So if I get a set of 50, knowing I have this problem, and the set tends to have different sizes, little variations, I tend to get 150. And mostly are able to get ones that are at least 8.8, 8 millimeters, 0.5, 8.5 millimeters to get closer. And it works. So, and it's hard to find online ones that are good quality. It's harder and harder to find good quality gems nowadays, sadly. But sometimes in some respects, when you find the white website, there's a lot and of high levels. And you go with what speaks to you. And if you get it and it doesn't work, you could send it back, assuming it's still in the place in the way they sent it to you. So I hope that helps with the practicalities. At the back of the book that I gave you, and especially the new version, they have a whole area of new stones, like recently discovered. I suggest you stick to the traditional stones that have always existed. Once I was in New York and I came across a store that had all the new ones in back. I was like, whoa, I get to try these. I'd heard of them. So I had the guy open the case and they were all there. So I could feel stones. So I put my hand on all of them and held them, closed my eyes, centered on the energy of what was in my hand. Okay, for all like 15 of them, I felt nothing. I mean, zero. Zero. Well, I don't know. It might not have been the stones from the book. I don't know. It said the name. I don't know what's going on. From my personal perspective, it didn't. There was nothing there. The guy was so pissed. He goes, "Which one do you want?" And I told him, honestly, I felt nothing from any of them. And he looked at me. I said, "Look, I could feel every stone in this store." And I could feel some of them being 15 feet away from them. Believe me, I could feel stones. There was nothing. He was so pissed. I came to find out a lot of that store wasn't the most kosher. And, I went back a year or two later and all the stones in the store were dirty. They didn't clean them. And the amount of people who went through the store, I couldn't even get halfway into the store before I felt ill. So you need to be wise and careful. And with everything in life. So, I kind of give an in-depth teaching to give something different from what I normally teach. This is a different flavor. But, it's something in my life that I've found that helped me. And prayers, beads, when you do mantras, help ground. And this is why I brought this up. Because when we started doing prayers of the mantra together, I grabbed my set of prayer beads and I've been using it. And it's helped ground me into the practice. This is why I'm mentioning this, because it's skillful. And therefore, if you're using prayer beads, what are the beads? Hence this whole conversation. And we've opened into the whole thing. If you find also one that speaks to you, one crystal, you can get bigger pieces of it. You've seen the big pieces. And you put it in your room. And therefore that vibration in your room is there. It's a form of medicine to bring you what you need in your body to heal imbalances. So you could better connect with God and live life in a proper way. You're healing yourself, tikkun yourself, to heal your world, tikkun man. You understand? And this becomes an intention. You're using it with the intention to become a good and wholesome vessel of God's manifestation on this planet. It's to help invite that divine flow and consciousness into us. The Shekhinah helps remove barriers to the Merkava chariot, to connect with it, to rise up, to connect to the blessing, to bring it down, the ability for it to come down to us by us being in alignment, and then the blessings and the graces that are contained in it, as well as the guidance and the flow. So all the path becomes really easy and effortless because we've worked through all the barriers that hold us back. So we're really working with the surrounding light within us and around us and how it helps us. We work with the Or Makif. It's the source of spiritual influence that surrounds and protects us. We learn to balance any things that keep us from being able to fully manifest in that sacred space. any imbalances. The surrounding light. So practically, you look at this gentleman here in the picture. He's holding a quartz prayer beads, 72 names. You could have a string that's thicker, that won't break. There are certain strings that are very tight. One made for pearls. You'll see it in the store, all sorts of different colors of it. You have to get the right size. I find that 0.8 millimeter string works. 1 millimeter tends to be a little too thick. My turquoise one fit perfectly around my hands, so I could have a fixed string and it would wrap 3 times and it wouldn't fall off, and it fit perfectly. Now, since I'm in a smaller side of bead and I'm using 72 as opposed to another number, it doesn't fit around my hands properly, so I have to use a string that is flexible so it could expand around my hand to fit. So you want to get one that is more rugged. You don't want the clear one. I found ones that have the white color, and the clear ones are too plastically and they'll fall and break. This one's last for a while. And when you first wear it, they will stretch at the beginning. So I would use a binder clip to kind of hold it while it stretches out a little bit. And if you're using a regular string, I would wet it and stretch it out. So you get as much of the stretch out before you put it together and you put it into a knot. Because otherwise, as you use it, it will get pulled out a little bit through use, and then there's going to be too much space between the beads, and you won't able to move it between your fingers from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And the hand position is here. There's 2 different ones. I've used the one she uses because the other one just makes no sense to me. See the thumb? You move, and that it's on top of the top finger. Some people put it underneath the finger that it's on top of, so below the finger it's at, between the 2 fingers. I never was able to do that. I do it this way, and you basically do a sort of swirling motion of the thumb in a way that pushes the bead along. So you're moving the top bead down. So you're swirling it up, and as you move the thumb up and down, you're moving the beads along. So the bead's coming up from the top, and it's moving down below in a circular motion. And with practice, you can do it quite fast, believe me. Very, very, very fast. Or very slow, depending. It takes a little practice, but you'll get it pretty well in about 5 minutes. You want the beads not too tight, but enough space that your hands can go through them. So you want them close to each other. But I find it a slight space, a slight give helps with the flow. We're not counting. I put all 72 together, so there's no beginning or end to the string. This allows you just to move it without having anything come in contact with your hands. And you can go in the flow. Other traditions have things sticking out, and you're not supposed to go over a certain bead. And so you have to learn to double back and go in the other direction, which you learn to do, and it becomes automatic and super fast and super easy. But for this, I've started with the 72 beads. I put it in one, and I actually really like that because you're just in the flow of it and you don't have to worry about reversing it. When you're saying the names of God, it doesn't necessarily need to be one per bead. You could just get into the flow, and the names sometimes just go really fast. Like Adonai, 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 Adonai. Or even faster. And then you sometimes really into it, it just gets into a vibration of a mumble of it. But in your mind, you're saying the name, but it's almost getting into a vibration of it. And your hands can literally be flying through your beads. And it's not necessarily one, because now your beads and the movement of your hands are in the vibration of what you're saying. Does that make sense? A little more advanced. The beginning, if you want to empower the beads, you say a name of God per each bead, asking the blessing to enter the bead. So it becomes a receptacle of divine manifestation, especially if it's a quartz, but even for a piece of wood, so that the Shekhinah of Yahweh, of Hashem, of Adonai, of Elohim can be imbued in it. So it becomes a little bit of a holy object. So if you're out of alignment or in grief, and you need something physical to kind of help bring you that strength or tangible presence of God's energy, you can go to your prayer beads and hold it and feel that energy and allow it to infuse in you that need that you currently have to help balance you. You understand? That's the skillfulness of it. We're on the journey, and sometimes we just need to grab onto something to help us when we're off. And when we use our sacred names of God and we treat these objects, rings, whatever, in the proper sacred way, because we've brought them into our practice and imbued them with God's holy name, they hold an energy. And if our energy is off, holding something that has been imbued with our love and practice and hold a certain frequency helps us heal and bring us back into alignment. Hence, a benefit of prayer beads. And you could wear them during the day around your neck. I would always put it under the shirt. These are private things. Or around your wrist, depending on the day and age and where you live and the culture you're in. Back in the day, a lot of people wore things of different things. I used to wear them before it was in fashion. I was a little bit ahead of time. Then it became in fashion, which I find slightly horrible because a lot of people really didn't practice the practice and it was more of a showpiece of fashion, which, no comment there. Today, I don't know. I don't live in the areas where I would normally see this. Maybe it's off and maybe it gets you unwarranted attention, maybe aggression. You don't know. And you might not feel called and it might not fully sit your culture in that way to wrap it around your hand. So you don't do it and you leave it at home. But if you take it out with you on vacation or somewhere to pray, you should put it in a cloth bag. And they exist, prayer beads, little bag handlers. Just look in the mala bag. And you'll find beautiful little things and you could put it in and you'll keep the integrity. If you're now using it, it should be on your prayer space, on there, because it has a vibration in its bag or out in the open to bless your space. This is something as an aid to help us on our walk. Yes? So if you look at his hands, the bead should be layering on top of the hand, but you see in cross-legged or in full lotus, this is not even half lotus, this is cross-legged or half lotus or full lotus, the hands on the left side, proper posture, should be right over the kneecap. So it's not quite right over the kneecap. And if that's not a comfortable position for you, it could be anywhere sort of on between the kneecap and the pelvis in a position that is comfortable. And the right hand does the prayer bead. Now, if you're left-handed, that would draw the energy into your body. So anybody can do it on either side. It's right-handed and it puts it into my aura. So that works for me on multiple levels. But if you're left-handed, maybe it's your left hand, but see how it makes your body feel, because you also bring it into your body with your left hand. And you put the bead on the top finger and you sort of roll it down and it moves. It's as simple as that. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I didn't move the picture over. Here you are. Sorry, now it makes sense what I'm saying. So the hand's a little bit too much to the left, on the left side. On the right, on the left side should be more on the knee. And then the other one, there it is, just doing it. Maintain proper posture wherever it is. It could be in the middle of your lap, and you, depending on where it is, if you're standing up, you could have your hand on the top portion of your leg. Right, so this is a quartz, so you see the rainbow light around him. Quartz tends to have more of a rainbow, open, full spectrum light. Turquoise will be on the purple color. Right, so here is a woman doing the same thing. Don't want to be sexist, so I made sure that we have to get a woman in there. Don't want to use male figures because everybody is on the path, men, women, children. We're all there, old people, we're all on the path. Yeah, she has a nice alignment, back straight. Notice slightly look it down, but you know, the head could be, the neck can be straight out or a little more tucked in. She's more in a receptive posture, open. It's a receptive hand posture with the palms up. That brings in the energy of the environment. And look, she's in a very peaceful, tranquil environment, and she's doing her mantras. And she's at peace. Mouth should always be slightly open. It's an energy channel. It could be open with your lips closed, but the jaw has an open space, and the mouth should be just slightly open. I never really quite mentioned that, but that's I could actually see the throat constriction from this picture, interestingly enough. It is not a picture, it was created, but there's a tightness in the jaw, and you don't want that. That traps energy. So there's that. And then I think that's it. So why don't we do, so that's it. Why don't we do some recitation together? I hope everybody understands why I went through this. It is not super traditional, but it is something that I've encountered. And having prayer beads helps me. It's very grounding. And yeah. So it's offered and considered, or you could also, see if something calls to you, and at least you have an understanding on what you're wearing on your hands, and look them up. You don't need to buy the book. You could look online. There's some good websites. I try not to give places where to buy them because I have a lot of people listening, and the stores will be overwhelmed. So people should try to find where they can. When you go out and about, there's good stores, there's bad stores. It's clean, it's not. I've seen fakes of more expensive stones. Be careful out there. There's more fakes, especially of high energy stones. I can tell because I can hold them. I know what they're supposed to feel like, and they don't feel that. Even though they look kind of real. So, there's nothing, that's just what it is. So just be mindful and look around at different places and find a place that you think you can trust. So I think that's enough on that. I wanted to have a slightly different HP Shalom than the traditional, just to make it a little lighter. But I think there's actually was a lot of really powerful, kind of profound things I've said, even if I do say so myself, that helps. So I would like us to finish off by saying some mantras together, because all of this comes back to our practice. Otherwise, I simply would not be talking about it. And ultimately is to align with God. Everything that we do in a spiritual, religious way, if one is of faith, is to be in alignment with the Shekhinah. And so mantras are important. So I'm going to stay at my desk, so there's not too much time taken up by me having to adjust the microphone and everything. So if people are in the prayer space or would like to get there, we can begin in maybe 2 minutes or so, 3 minutes. And, light your shrine, your candle, line up, and we'll, begin. Hey, so if you decide to use prayer beads, when you use prayer with them, pray with them, use them in a holy way, say the mantras, you want to treat them reverently, because they attain the frequency and fragrance of God due to the sacred names and vibrations that they capture. So you wash your hands before you touch them so you don't bring dirt to them or dirty energies, because as it's being used in a holy way, they themselves become holy through the nature of our practice. They contain a sacred vibration, so they should be treated that way. And just in the same way, if you print out mantras or names of God and you don't use that piece of paper, you just don't crunch it up and throw it in the trash. You burn it or you bury it, or with a prayer, you shred it mindfully. And same with pictures of holy sites or emblems or motifs. Things are taken care of in a proper way for what they symbolize, because we could use them here as a form of prayer. We've endued them with a vibration in our prayer, and then when we just do a normal prayer, we may have it in our hands as we pray, because it's become a little bit as part of us. And as we pray holding it, it creates and captures a vibration that can help and uplift us and becomes part of our practice. It could be a very beautiful, an ornament. And more than an ornament, it's something that can help, especially when you begin. It's very helpful. Sometimes when you begin, it's not landing, you're not as grounded, you need something to help. And something like this kind of does help psychologically and energetically. It's and if you wear it, it could remind you of your practice, bring the protection or the blessing into your body to help you on your walk as well. You see? Wood. I've had wood for quite a while. He could be saying a mantra and working them, or he's using them as a source to align, to be able to pray, to help him connect, because he associates the prayer beads with connection with God. So on a conscious, subconscious level, his body aligns to that frequency just by holding the beads. It's working with our alignment of our minds. And notice the way he's angled, holding his hand in the middle, in the symmetry. He's aligning the left and right side of his body and brain. Therefore, he's entering into the central column through that alignment. And with that alignment, he connects with God, is kind of being shown. And as well as the one above by its position. You see, his back should be a little more straight, but sometimes it's okay to in prayer because that actually moves the energy up in the body. And his neck position is in the perfect position to allow the flow up his neck. Slightly down, if people are able to feel it by moving your neck slightly down from horizontal, you'll find a sweet spot where you will feel it's just slightly down, energy kind of open up in the neck area and assists the flow up. Once one develops more sensitivity, you could definitely feel it. But it's also okay to look straight across as well. But you're mindful as to how the energy is flowing. You don't want to trap it in the lower part of your skull. But that's a very aligned prayer, and he's using it as a tool. You notice that I used the word tool as a means to find his connection with God. The connection in God is not found in the bead itself. It's used as a means to connect, to make it happen within us. It doesn't become a crutch. Doesn't mean I can't connect if I don't find these beads. It helps us to connect, but that connection is always found within us. This is an aid. Beautiful, sacred. I love things like that because it's in my personality to have things like that, and it makes the practice a little special. A little prayer space. We make it special. Prayer practice in alignment with God doesn't need to be work and depleting and pushing and this and that. We need to make effort, but we could also make it a beautiful, wondrous, sacred, and amazing journey that's just, oh my God. So bring those aspects that make you say, oh my God, how special, vibrant, zesty. Ooh, that helps. Right? It uplifts. Okay. Oh, the pictures from last week are up on the website, by the way. So hands together. Fingertips together at an angle. So since I am working with prayer beads, they're in between my hands when I do this. Because the frequency of the one I'm using, and I'm not saying which one, because I don't want people to be drawn to it just because I'm using this one at this moment in my life. And, and also some of them tend to be more rare, and I don't want to have a massive rush on a type of bead and then nobody can find them who need them. There's a lot of people listening. So, it's people exploring what works for them. This one works really well for me, and it's aligned, and it doesn't get in my way with my alignment. In fact, it doesn't necessarily boost my alignment. This is a more subtle bead. It has a subtle vibration. It is not of the quartz family. And it has a round, whole, and warm sense when I hold it. And so I put it, and any bead, I put it in between when I pray, because the bead you use should help you align. And by putting it between your hands when you pray, in the crux, the fingertips sort of in between, its vibration is there, but also as you pray, it takes on the vibration of the prayer and alignment. So what you're using is engaged at the beginning with the alignment of God and your prayer of connection. Do you see? And it takes on that frequency and blessing. So hopefully in its alignment, it provides to you what you need. And it has characteristics which you study about that also are in alignment with what you're looking for. And somebody gave me good advice once, which I'm glad I remember now. Which one do you pick? Look at the colors of the ones you're drawn to. Which ones draw you to? Oh, that's pretty. Well, look at it. Look at its qualities. Investigate and see if it works. Find it in a store nearby. Hold it if it looks clean. See if the vibration works. And if the quality is not the best, well, at least you got a sense of it. Then go find a place that has great quality of it online. Or go to a different store. But you investigate and you find the one that you're attracted to. This one I love, and I'm very attracted to the color of it. It works on all the different levels. So we put our hands together. If you're using a prayer bead, you lightly move it between your hands like you're hearing me doing. Mine's a stone, gem of sorts. And then you put it together, it heats it up, and then you blow on it, which activates sort of the chi, puts the life force into it, and warms it up. Put your hands together, and then you connect with God. Line up, open, breathe, relax, let go. If you're wearing glasses, maybe take them off. You don't have to read anything, and you could still see your prayer space, or you don't necessarily need to see it, even if it's blurry. Glasses put a subtle pressure in the head, especially if you're beginning, and you want the energy to flow naturally. But it's fine if you wear them as well. But if you don't, sometimes it's nice to just take them off. Deep breath. So we're going to start with a single name of God, just to bring in that alignment. If you are ever off in life, energy is overwhelming, you can't sit still to do your prayers, you're out in the office and you've got 15 seconds to pull it together before you got a big conversation or whatever, and you need that space to clear. The name to use is Abba. Open, spacious. Abba. Up, reaching to God, the Ba descending back into us. It's literally duality. And it opens clear space, and it allows things to rest. So we'll start with a couple Abba, and then I'm going to switch to the name that I use, which I use very reverently, which is Yahweh. And then we'll switch to one of these there. People, I'm not sure which one yet. It will just happen. And it might not be one that's listed. But people could follow the one that I'm using, or use a formulation that they've been working with themselves. Hopefully people have found one that works for them. You can use Shalom, like we discussed last week. You could use Rapha for healing. Yahweh Rapha, Yahweh that heals. Taking on that specific quality of healing, and anything out of alignment with God requires healing, generally. Or it could be there is healing that needed, psychological, emotional, physical. Yes? And if you want to help heal someone else, if you have that ability, towards the end, you think of the person. Even if you've been doing a different name, you can think of the person and then send them the energy of healing. You could say Adonai Rapha as you visualize their face or where they are, and just subtly just send with intent. It's not really like I'm sending and I have to grab energetically to, it's just, no, it's a light energy of sending it off in that direction. Adonai Rapha, Adonai Rapha. And you're just sending the blessing of God in that direction using a sacred name. Or if you're in their presence, if they're religious and open to it, you could say it out loud while holding their hand. I would use the right hand on them. Or you can use, you could say it quietly within yourself if they're not open or religious. And you just say the prayer of the energy when you're around them, asking God to heal them. Some people ask, which part of their body do you touch? Well, energy comes in on the left side of their body. For me, that never works for me. I like to be on their right side, and I use my right hand. And I find that to be extremely effective for them. I don't know. Experiments. Maybe it's just me. But if there's a place that's needs healing, you put your hand, like if it's a broken leg, on the leg, or something's pulled. I've had strains and pulls, and when I'm aligned, if I put my right hand there and say a prayer, I could literally feel it healing. Energy is real, my friends. Our world is full of energy. We're full of energy. We can use it in our favor. And divine names bring a lot of grace and healing and blessing, and helps us work in the dance of energies that we find ourselves in. So, let's do this. Start with Abba. Breathe, exhale. Abba, Abba. Abba, 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 Abba. Relax, open. Feel the space you've just cultivated. Say the name again if you wish. Abba, Abba. Abba, 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 Abba. Yahweh Shaddai, Yahweh Shaddai, Yahweh Shaddai, Yahweh. Yahweh Shaddai, Yahweh Shaddai, Yahweh. Those who feel called to, they could move to the Aleph practice or continue saying whatever name of God or multiple names of God that you feel called to, or just normal prayers, whatever you feel.
צערנו נורא, נא גיבור דורשי ייחודך, כבבת שומרם, ברכם תרם, רחמי צדקתך, תמיד גומלם, חסין קדוש, חסין קדוש, ברוב טובך, נהל עדתך, יחיד גאה, לעמך פנה, זוכרי קדושתך, שבתנו קבל, ושמע צעקתנו, יודע תעלומות. אנא בכך, גדולת ימינך, תתרצה רוח, קבל רינות, עמך סד בנו, תהרנו, תהרנו נורא, שבתנו קבל, ושמע צעקתנו, יודע תעלומות, יודע
ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
May the Holy One, HaKadosh, be with us, hold us, bless us, and be with us, our families, and our world for the week to come. Amen. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I wish you all a beautiful and blessed week. See you next week. Bye-bye.